going to do a little bit of a duet, and hopefully it'll go by a little bit faster. So we are from Elma Community Resource Center. So Elma Community Resource Center is a community resource center located in Winnipeg, Manitoba. It started in 2001, and the main focus of our center is really just focused on the family. Very client-centered. As soon as a client walks into the doors, even if they're just in to use the drop-in, we greet them and we ask, what can we do for you? We offer a variety of services, everything from drop-in counseling to youth outreach, youth employment. So when someone comes in, not only is it a hello, but what can we do for you and for your families? Reach Out, which is what we're going to be presenting primarily on, is our youth employment or our youth outreach portion. So Reach Out is based on 5 tenets that you'll see there. It is based on the community, at school, yourself, others, and to explore. So with all of that, we do create programming for the youth in our community that's based on the things that we would have even needed as youth growing up. So for myself, I am a first-generation immigrant from the Philippines. So I take that with me. I grew up in a rural area, which complicates my sort of story as well, where all my classmates, everybody was white. I could count on one hand the number of newcomer families in growing up in my town as a whole. My husband is half Jamaican as well, so it's also bringing in that sort of idea. So my children are half Filipino, a quarter Jamaican, a quarter French, and super cute.
And my name is Mungu. I was born in Congo. I grew up in Uganda for almost 10 years, so I speak Luganda more than my actual language, which is Swahili. I came here 3 years ago. I came with my family. We're 9 siblings. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Okay, so the next few slides, we're just going to kind of flow through quickly because we've gone through a little bit of it. But with the work that we do focus on several different areas of practice. So we look at doing work, really looking at our Elmwood families. So we do regular environmental scans, looking how our communities have progressed in the last few years. So with a baseline 0 as compared to the rest of the Winnipeg population, you can see all the different things that the number of immigrants in our area has increased. The number of university graduates has actually increased as per previous years, but things like the number of the household income has also, or the level of household income has also decreased. So when we're looking at a youth, we're looking at their whole entire family. So the things that we're looking at is their country of origin, their legal status in the country, their health beliefs. So whether they believe even in Western medicine or if it's something different that their family is coming with. We're looking at reasons for their relocation. Why have they come to Canada? Why have they settled here? Educational beliefs, religious beliefs, their biases, and the oppression that they may have faced as well. Their family structure beliefs, the traumas that they may have gone through, the time in the country, and of course, their languages. Okay, so while we're looking at the youth, the things that directly affect them, we're looking at things like employment. We're looking at things like, are they feeling a pressure to conform? Do they have that sense of safety? Are they housed? All those kinds of things when it comes to our youth. Do they have access to positive role models? I grew up in a household where my parents were working all the time. I grew up with my grandparents, but my parents were working all the time. I did not have access to them a lot. So would kids like me have access now? And we're doing it from a trauma-informed place. So really knowing that, acknowledging the need to understand that each youth's individual life experience is what we need to do in order to work with them effectively, that we recognize how common trauma is, and that it does reflect in many ways. So whether it's a youth that's acting out, but it could also be a youth that's closing in on themselves. So we also look from a strength-based perspective, which was kind of discussed previously. So really focusing on the fact that people are the experts in their own lives. Our role is to increase and explain their choices and encourage them. So to focus on their surpluses, not their deficits, and to let them know that they do have inherent resources. So within all of this is our intentional inclusive practice via the anti-oppression lens that was briefly mentioned. So regularly we look at our program, we make sure that the space that we're in is providing a safe space for all of our youth, that it's a comfortable space for them to be in, that the staff and volunteers are reflectant of the youth that we serve. Amongst our staff, we speak over 20 different languages at the center as a whole, and even within the youth program itself, we reflect people coming from an Asian background, from the newcomer backgrounds, from the Indigenous and Métis as well as the mainstream Canadians. So what we really wanted to focus on this presentation is the Through My Eyes, which is a real life simulation. So this is our way of actually dealing with the biases that we're seeing that a lot of the youth might hold. And this is actually a training simulation that we do. So this is a little bit of a different format. You guys are gonna play along with me for this session. Okay, so Through My Eyes is created as a gentle experiential learning format for both service providers and youth. It gives you a chance to kind of really think about what it would be like to live in the life of somebody else, utilizing very basic identifiers. Now, these identifiers are super important because as people that work in the field, we get intake forms. We see these names, we see their ages, we see their marital statuses, we see their family size, and immediately we make judgments. We immediately think, this is how I'm gonna help them. These are the resources that they're gonna be using because I'm super helpful. But at the end of the day, is it helpful to them? That you're already inflicting your biases on them before you've even met them. So, here's the game. This would be the first card that we would give. Now, each of the youth within that room would have a different card that has a different kind of identifier. So, looking at this name, looking at this age, so if you have paper in front of you, you can kind of quickly jot it down. When given just these identifiers of their name and their age, who do you immediately picture in your head? Is it male? Is the person female? Do they have brown hair? Do they have light hair? Are they newcomer? Do they have some sort of language profile? What do you immediately see? So what type of lifestyle does this person have? And what gender do you assume? So with this, we've kind of seen the iceberg of assumptions before, but the way that we look at it with the youth is really looking at it from the two different ways. So what do people know about you? But what do you think people should know about you? So we asked the youth themselves. When doing this project with one of the youth, they literally take a piece of paper, draw a line. Above it, what do people know and what should people know? Things that really stick out to me is one time we did this session, and one of the things that one of the youth indicated that people thought about them was they thought he was a gangster because of the color of his skin. But what they should really know about him is that he's active in his church, that he's a good son. And those are the things that aren't immediately seen. Okay, so.
So for the programs, one of the things we do is Unity Camp, and that's actually going to be next week. That we after going back to Winnipeg, we'll be going on Tuesday. And because we don't have enough time, so that's about Unity Camp. We'll go to the next picture.
Okay, so Mungu is actually playing along with us. And so everybody else, you are married and have 5 children. Now, how has your perception of your person changed? Has it changed? And what, if anything, has changed? Has your perception of what you thought their lifestyle would be different? Is it any different now? So now, Mungu, what is your person?
I'm single. I have 2 children. I'm a dog.
No.
Okay.
Single and 2 children.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, how is your perspective now different of Mungu versus your person? Is your lifestyle different? And it probably is, right? Single with only 2 children, it's gonna be different. So we tie in then things like the story of my name. So here we're really looking at family structures. So story of my name, which is interesting to me because this weekend I saw everyone going, what's your name? To Mungu. Munguakwa?
Munguakonkwa Mulumodero.
Yes. Yes. It's an interesting time at the airport. So, yes, so the youth get a chance to really talk to each other, learn about each other's names. Why do you have that name? Where is it from? Sometimes it's something super simple. My name is Anne. My parents really like beauty pageants. I was named after Miss Philippines. So, I mean, it's not really as cultural, but it provides an interesting background on me, and it encourages future discussion with me, now that you know a little bit about me.
So one of the other things we do is drumming, and drumming is a non-verbal universe activity that builds upon collectivistic aspect of diversity of diverse cultures. And drumming, to me, I call it, it's a teacher and it's a healing, because I'll give a little bit example of when I was drumming once. It was an event of me and indigenous people. But the way we combined the drumming, I was drumming, I never drummed with them. It was the first time, just like they did the music yesterday, and it really worked out good. And I really liked how I got my cultural skills of drumming and then combined it with theirs, and it had a really big meaning behind it.
Okay, so now the next section is occupation. So we go through the occupations with the youth because they want to be NBA stars, so which is fair. But okay, so going with that, what kind of budget are you working with? Okay, so how has your perception of now, keeping in mind your profile, you are John, you're 28, you have 5 kids, you're married, and this is your occupation. You're a teacher, and that's your salary. So what's your lifestyle like? Kind of ponder that internally. Now, Mungu,
Okay, I'm a doctor, and I earn an average salary of $150,000.
okay, so now how has your bias changed of him? Before, oh, he's single, he has 2 kids, how is he gonna do it? But now he's a doctor. How has that changed? So with this, we also talk to the kids a lot about budgeting, but not only budgeting, how that works. If they're buying a car, how does credit work? How do things like leases work? If they are within our Elma community, it is a low-income community. We live in a food desert. It costs us more to go get the food than it is to like buy it. So how does that play into everything?
Youth children's facilitators. So that's one of actually the programs that I did before I started. That was one of my first jobs that I started with Elmwood Community Resource Center. We get a chance of, we as the youth, to facilitate the program and do plannings for the little children. And it's really, I had experience from my little sisters of like babysitting, but doing this more helped me how to know how to deal with young children. Iron chef, yeah. So, yeah, I'm not good at cooking. That's one of the things. Well, now I can go home and cook because I joined the programs and I was cooking, and I still love cooking, doing the same thing with the youth every time at the programs. And yeah, learning about food. It's really good for a man from Africa. I mean, I hear a lot of them don't like cooking, but it's now a thing that I always complain with my boss. I'm like, I'm going to be, well, because she was asking me, who's going to be cooking for you when, like, you get married? I'm like, of course I have a wife. And my boss is like, how about if she's sick or she's not there? I'm like, oh, I can always go to the restaurant. But so we always complain about it, but she always wins because, yeah, we all need to know how to cook. Our cat talk. So this is another thing that we teach our youth, and well, lots of things and technology coming up. Cars, we're always going to be driving. There's cars coming up, and they need to know all about this stuff.
Okay, so I'm seeing the line to kind of start wrapping up, but things like citizenship status as well, and how that affects your bias. So one of the things I wanted to go through to kind of start to wrap up is the stress test. So we go through things like this. So this again would be your situation. So you as your person with your age, your income, etc. Your partner just lost their job. How does that affect you stress-wise? How is your mental health? What are the resources that you can access because of those things? But then taking yourself aside from that, so aside from your character, what are resources you can access? And is that different from your character? What are resources he can access as a doctor? Maybe he can take time off work, maybe he can't, to deal with those different things that are going on in his life. But it lets you kind of, or as the youth know, people's experiences are different. They can be very, very different. So really understanding that. Okay, so we do things like expressive arts, land-based teaching, dance, back to our roots gardenings, and other topics like healthy relationships, involving things like service to community, doing a leadership group, a homework program where we have 134 youth that are actively registered in our programming. This past year, the kids just graduated in June, so 10 of them won scholarships in 2019 for academic excellence, including 2 that graduated with entrance scholarships to university. Okay, so these are additional game topics that we do are things that you'll see there: ability, gender identification, sexuality. So always giving the kids a scenario, how would they deal with it, and what are resources available to them. It's important to us that our youth become the leaders. It's important to us that they become the advocates in the community so that they become very, very aware of the power that they hold as youth. So program outcomes that we've had so there's 134 youth. We have an average of 40 youth per night. The senior high students have a success rate of 98%. We have 70% reporting increased grades, attendance, and graduation rolls, and those stats are directly from the principal himself. 80% are reporting increased ability to deal with things like family conflict, and an additional 80% are reporting increased feelings of belongingness and willingness to introduce positive changes in their lives. So here's a bunch of our kids at camp last year. And yes, thank you so, so much. And we're available after a few questions.
I have a few words to say before I go. We build social capital whereby knowing one another, knowing our neighbor turns into reciprocal relationship of caring, and this is what creates an informal social safety net. Socializing is always available in youth through singing, dancing, playing games, traveling together, and eating together. How do we maintain a positive and strong relationship with youth? Do not wait until it's too late. Practice what you preach. Give your youth some control. Listen and be open. Thank you.
Thank you.